Hello and welcome to another fun-filled edition of Adam's Music Box. Now, I've always said the 70s was, at least in the modern era, that most musically diverse of all decades. So many different genres to choose from, and because of that, it's really difficult to point out any singular sound of the 70s. There are many sounds of the 70s. Donna Summer, Chick Corea, Weather Report, the Bee Gees, Led Zeppelin, the Eagles, Olivia Newton-John, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. The list goes on and on. But if gun was to head and someone were asking me, give me the sound of the 70s, the cool sound of the 70s, the adventurous sound of the 70s, the musically sophisticated sound of the 70s, the well-produced, accessible, but virtuosic sound of the 70s, I would point to this man behind me and his brother, of course, because they were musical collaborators, and that, of course, is Gino Vannelli. Now, Gino Vannelli is absolutely one of my favorite musicians of all time, and Joe, of course, his brother, was part of that journey for most of the albums along the way. Now, he tells a great story of how he got signed to A&M Records. He was standing outside the studio all day long, the security guard eyeing him up. What the hell are you doing? His brother was there waiting with him, and he's waiting for Herb Alpert, the great Herb Alpert, the A in A&M Records. And when he sees Herb Alpert, he runs through the gate. The guard would have shot him if he was that kind of guy, but he goes up to Herb Alpert and he gives him a demo tape. And Herb Alpert, the story is, he listens to it and he signs him. And from there, he went on to create some of the finest albums of all time. His first album on the label was Crazy Life, but the album that really was absolutely phenomenally good was Powerful People. To me, that was his real coming out, if you will. It's just a perfect album, perfect songwriting, perfect arrangements by his brother. Gino, of course, wrote the songs, his brother arranged them. Wonderful musicians on the album, wonderfully recorded, wonderfully mastered, just absolutely perfect. Check out the Mobile Fidelity version if you can. Just a wonderful album. And he continued to produce a string of great albums from there. Storm at Sunup, The Gist of Gemini, and Pauper in Paradise. But then he came out with another album that was just not that those albums weren't good, they were great, but he hit it out of the park with Brother to Brother from 1978. Amazing album, great musicianship. You've got Jimmy Haslip, Alan Holdsworth's once and future bass player on the album. Joe and Gino at the height of their power. The great Mark Carney, not the Prime Minister of Canada. I wonder if they're related. On the drums. And of course, the very mysterious Carlos Rios on guitar, who Rick Beato always talks about when he talks about this album. And then he followed this up with 1981's Nightwalker, which had what was possibly one of his biggest hits, Living Inside Myself. Just wonderful stuff. Now, he and his brother would continue to make albums into the 80s, but it was this sort of mid 70s to early 80s period that, at least in terms of recorded notoriety, the Vannellis and Gino in the limelight were really at their peak, although they continued to do great work after, and Gino's as he continues to be a wonderful singer and a wonderful performer. I would say that this style of music was almost only possible in to be at least only possible to become big, I should say, in the 70s, because the 70s was an era when people would accept a bit of virtuosity in their pop single. They would accept albums that were based around songs, but with long, extensive solo and instrumental passages. It was an album when it was cool to be hip and hip to be virtuosic in music. It was really a musician's era, and Gino Vannelli really encapsulates that. So happy birthday to Gino. Check out all of his albums because no matter what you pick, you can't really go wrong. They're all great. As always, like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Take care.